I decided on putting this 5.3 in my parents' El Camino. But before we talk about that, let me introduce you to my 1982 Chevy El Camino. Okay, so the story behind the El Camino is we picked it up in 2016 and my dad bought it as a present to my stepmom to replace the one that he bought her as a wedding present when they got married back in like 2011, I believe it was. He bought her a 1982 GMC El Caballero, which is pretty rare. Well, when my dad started his first business, he needed some money to buy a machine, so they got rid of it. And then once his business did better, he was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy you another El Camino and we're gonna build it. My dad picked it up, he drove it back, and it had the original, I think it was a 267 in here, and it was dog tired, guys. Let me tell you what. Then my dad found a small block Chevy 305. He picked it up, he brought it back, he dropped it in, he's, wiring everything up, and then one of his buddies, here's the story. All right, it gets a little froggy from here. My dad's buddy was like, hey man, I got this 350 in my garage. I just pulled it out of my C10. Let me sell it to you, and then you can just put that in so that way the El Camino can be faster. So my dad was like, all right, cool, let's do that. His buddy builds it. My dad never opens it up, puts it in the El Camino, turns it over, and I'm like, okay, stop. Dude, there's water coming out of one of the head bolts. Well, comes to find out, my dad's buddy didn't taper the threads. Well, by the time we discovered this, it screwed up the pistons and the cylinder walls. It flash rusted. So we pulled the engine back out, and luckily enough, we never fired it up because the piston looked like it got ate up by a valve, and the ring was stuck, and it was gonna explode if that thing had any type of heat. You know when a piston's done for when you pull it out, and when the ring's pinched, your time's limited. So with that being said, I was like, okay, after we pull the 350 out, I'm like, well, you know what? We got the 305 sitting right there, but I'm gonna put new head gaskets on it. We're gonna open it up. We're gonna make sure everything's right. And that I did. We're setting it in, and I go to make a video, and this kid from videos I used to do back in the day who used to cut my dad's grass, the dirt bike kid, shows up, and we start making a video, and he was screwing around with, some bolts around the cowl of the El Camino. I heard one drop in the background, but things drop in garages all the time. I didn't see nothing. There's a lot of noise. I just left it. We made our video and we went on our merry way. I go to fire the El Camino up. It fires right up and it sounds good. And then it stops. I'm like, what the heck? So then I go and I turn the engine over and it sounds like it's locked up. But I'm like, how is this thing locked up? But it ate a piston. I pulled the oil pan off and it ate a piston. So I was like, we're done for. Meanwhile, in the middle of all this, we're moving. We're just towing it to the new house. Once we get the El Camino back here and we settle in with moving, I pull the engine out. Are you recording? I got it!
Street fights here.
I pull the head off, and there and behold, I find, and I can't tell. A carburetor stud that was on the cowl. That is definitely what
we can't film that.
A little 11-year-old dropped. I'm sure he was scared to tell me. He don't know nothing about cars. It's okay. With that being said, we decided we're just going to do a budget build with the 350. So then we started doing the budget build with the 350, and I need a new crank for it. We get it honed and everything like that. And I talk to my engine builder and I say, hey, I need a crank. Do you happen to have one, like a stock 350 crank? And he's like, yeah, I got one. I was like, okay, cool. So I put the crank in, I put the piston in, and I turn the piston over and it comes out just a little bit. And I'm like, what in the world is going on there? I was like, is this thing a stroker? So I called my engine builder and I'm like, hey, Bob, I think that you sold me a stroker crank. He was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, yeah, you did. And he was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, yeah, you did. And then he said, all right, bring it on over here. So then I brought it on over to his house and he was like, sure as shit. Yeah, I did. Okay, so here's what we need to do. So then it went from a 350 to a 383 and it's still in the garage, but I was getting ready to order a set of aluminum heads for it. And I was looking at the videos that I did with Chevy Sargent on Sargent Restorations, and they did pretty well. And both of his things are Vortex swap and they're really reliable. They make a lot of power and he did it for cheap. Like I'm talking, like Chevy put a 6.0 in his Camaro, and he's got a little bit more money in it now, but initially he did it for under $1,500, which is affordable for any teenager, and it's also super affordable for guys like us. But also, he did the same thing, which was even cheaper, to his 1978 Scottsdale C10. Like, this thing is nice. and it has a remote start, and it's backed by a turbo 350. So like, he did it really cheap, and he's in that thing originally for like less than $1,200, excluding buying the truck. I think he only bought it for like $300-400. So with that being said, here's what we're gonna do to the El Camino. We are putting the 5.3 with his stage 2 turbo cam that I actually don't even know who makes it, but I'm gonna go check because we might put a new cam in it. We're gonna use one of Phytech's ultimate LS systems because I'm Phytech certified, and those things are pretty nice, and I've heard nothing but great reviews about them. We're gonna put AC back into this thing, and I'm probably gonna back it with a turbo 400. As for the rear end, completely up to you guys. I have no clue what I want to do, and I would really like it if you guys drop some suggestions in the comment section. And also, I have a full 5.3 turbo system sitting in the garage ready to make this thing a nice drag and drive build. But my parents don't know I'm making it into a drag and drive build. I'm just telling them, hey guys, I'm going to use, you know, my sponsors, and I'm going to build it on my channel, and don't worry, it's my gift to you guys. What they don't know is we're turning this into a drag and drive build that will have AC, that is reliable. You can drive it on the freeway, wherever else. But after a few clicks of the button, this thing is ready to get down. That way, you know, I can stick it in another class when I'm at the racetrack, higher my chances of winning. See what I'm saying? Or I can have my dad do it. We'll see. That's the plan. What I need from you guys, if you guys would please help me fund this project. I need you guys to help me sell some t-shirts, decals, and we'll do some giveaways in between, all right? But if you would, check out www.hoodbillygarage.com and please get a decal, just one, all right? It would mean a lot to me. Thank you guys for watching, and I will give you updates on the El Camino as they come in, and stay tuned for the next video.